That's right. I have the pleasure to have Max Herz, 1025 The Game, on the podcast. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the show. Appreciate you guys checking out another edition of the Time Report podcast. Look, today I know everyone's kind of wondering, when am I going to talk about Robert Saleh? That will happen on Sunday. For today, though, Max Herz of 1025 The Game and the Nashville Predators coming on and talking about the Preds today. He also gives his thoughts about Robert Saleh at the end of the show, so stay tuned to that. But this is Max Herz of 1025 The Game. Enjoy the episode. I'll see y'all after the show. That's right. I have the pleasure to have Max Herz, 1025 The Game, on the podcast today. Max, how you doing today, man? Welcome to the show.
Jack, I'm great. Thanks for inviting me on, and thanks for waiting out a really busy month of Preds hockey for me to finally get some time for you. So I appreciate it.
And before we start off with last night's game, which was incredible with Roman Josi's 1000th game, the weather tomorrow, some Preds fans might be wondering, is the game still going on tomorrow? What's the update with that?
It's definitely still happening. We would encourage anyone who can make it safely to get there. But hey, the NHL knows what they're doing with the snow. I mean, these are the hockey people. So the rules normally apply more to Edmonton and Winnipeg for stuff like this than they do to us. But hey, it seems to happen once every couple seasons or so where, look, if the teams are there and the refs are there, they're going to play. So that's going down, and we hope everyone who can get there safely is there. Please don't force it. It's not worth it if you don't think you can make it safely, but we hope to see everybody there. And if you have ticket contingency plans, the Preds can always help you out with those as well.
So last night we saw some history with Roman Josi's 1000th game with the Nashville Predators. I believe it's the first player in the franchise that's had 1,000 games, I believe. What was your experience last night at the arena, just seeing the fans, the vibe, and the impact with Roman Josi celebrating the 1,000th game?
Yeah, it was really cool. For the first Pred ever to play 1,000 games just for us. We've had other Preds who played their 1,000th game for the Preds, but nobody who had played all 1,000 with the Preds. David Legwand was the closest. He got to 950, but didn't get to 1,000 when he was traded away. So it's an unbelievable honor. And thinking about it, Josi is the guy that it really should have been all alone. A homegrown captain, a project, a guy who wasn't supposed to be a superstar from day one, who became a superstar, a face of the franchise, a pillar in the community, a pillar in the city, and somebody who's really a part of this second generation of the Preds. Not the day one Preds, this second generation that has been to the playoffs consistently, taken us to the Stanley Cup final. So it's so unbelievable that Josi did it, especially after all that he's battled through the last 2 years to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And he's really playing his best right now. So it all lined up perfectly, and it came in an incredible come from behind win.
Yeah, it was an incredible behind win. Before we go into the comeback win, you brought up this good stat on your Twitter account earlier that this was the 5 hat tricks in one season for the Nashville Predators. This has tied the franchise record since 2018, 2019, and Steven Stamkos last night with the hat trick with 3 goals. So when I saw the game, the Predators last night when we started, they were falling behind. They didn't look right going out into the first and the middle of the second period. What woke up the Nashville Predators late in the second period in your mind to get the juice going and get the late win?
I think some of it was wanting to do it for Roman Josi, right? I mean, the 1,000th game isn't as sweet if you don't win. Steven Stamkos' 600th goal wouldn't have been as sweet if they didn't win that game on December 31st. So, look, these milestone nights are only worth it if you move up in the standings for it. So, I think that was a lot of it. And they know the way they're playing right now that they can play with anybody. And after last season, that's a belief that you probably didn't think they would have at any point this year. So, that belief is real. I think they're being really well coached right now. I think everybody understands their role. And on a night like last night, your stars were your stars. Steven Stamkos had a hat trick. He scored 2 power play goals. Ryan O'Reilly had 3 points. He's your setup man. Philip Forsberg was dangerous. Josi was so involved and hit the crossbar on what could have been a massive goal in the third period. Juuse Saros was great in net. So, look, I think they're playing as well as they possibly could right now and just trying to stretch this out as long as possible.
And you mentioned Steven Stamkos last night with the 2 clutch power play goals. What has he been an impact lately for the Nashville Predators offense?
Yeah, he's been doing what they brought him here to do, and it took so much time for him to adjust. And the way Andrew Brunette has said it, I like this. He said this year it's his team.
Mhm.
Last year it was a transition year, and sometimes you see guys get traded in the NHL, and bam, they are amazing right away. And changing teams helps them. But when somebody's been on the same team as the face of the team for 16 years, like Stamkos was for the Lightning, it took time for him, and that's
Right.
understandable. And I think he's handled the tough times almost exclusively with incredible gentlemanly grace and humility. And you got to applaud him for that. He's a Hall of Fame person. And I'm glad this year, as the goals have started to go in, it's been an opportunity for the coaches, the players, and all of us to point out what we saw when things weren't going well for him, which was really almost complete positivity in class.
Yeah, so going into tomorrow's game, we faced the Utah Marathon. We already shut them out 4-0. What is the key for tomorrow's game to keep the Nashville Predators going and get another win at home?
Yeah, the guys for that team who always kill the Preds are Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz, and they just split out wide. Keller's the left shot, Schmaltz the right shot, and they just go back and forth east-west. They've been doing this since they were on the Coyotes together. They are, honestly, in my opinion, the most dangerous pair of line mates that the Preds ever see,
Hmm.
and they're in the division. So shutting those guys down, preventing them from getting rush chances and odd man rushes is definitely going to be important in that game. And Utah's a really good team. Like they've always had talent since they were the Coyotes. They piled up all these draft picks because the Coyotes were so bad most of those years. And now they've moved. They still have all those top picks. Many of them are becoming late 20s type superstars. Some of them are early 20s guys establishing themselves in the league. They made a big trade too to get JJ Peterka. They got Mikhail Sergachev. And those things have happened because they went from Arizona, where they had no financial backing and had to spend at the salary floor, to Utah, where their owner is saying, "Hey, let's go get it. Like we got talent, we can surround these guys." So, I I think they deserve to be in the playoffs this year. It's going to be a very tough game, and I think if Utah misses the playoffs this year, that is a big missed expectation for them.
So after this game, the Predators are going to be 3 games on the road, and then they come back home before the All-Star break. In this stretch, you got some pretty tough teams you're basically facing on this road. Do you see the Predators splitting these games, or what is your goal in mind to see the Predators maybe keep in mind? These teams are over 500 late in the season. You got to get more wins later in this time. What is one thing that you want to see from this team to at least play hard against these teams over 500?
Well, the way they verbalized it during this whole stretch, they went a month and a half without losing 2 games in a row. That changed earlier this week, but it started when they got crushed by the Panthers at home right before Thanksgiving. Team got together, and the mantra that has carried them through it has been win the week, which is like so simple, Like,
Yeah.
is that the thing you would expect to motivate professional athletes? Probably not, but it's so simple. They're not trying to go on a huge winning streak. They're not trying to sweep every road trip. They're trying to go 2 out of 3. And 2 out of 3 has been how they've chipped their way up in the standings. And in a league where, as you said, 500 is a dangerous number and a
Yeah.
whole lot of the league is packed around there. If you win 2 out of 3 for long enough, as the Preds have, you can dig yourself out of a deep standings hole. And that's exactly what they've done.
Exactly, like you basically said, the Predators a month ago and a half, I believe they're like number 8, number 9 in the standings, and look at they're now, they're number 5. The Predators are right behind the Sharks and the Kings and that 3 and 4 spot, but Utah and Kraken are 1 and 2 in that wild card spot. Like you said, with the Predators, they need to go on a little winning streak. What is your prediction? Do you see this team heading into the playoffs?
It'll be interesting to see. And I think the big pivot point will be what happens at the trade deadline. So that'll be in the first couple weeks of March, right after the
Mhm.
Olympics. And look, the Preds have some pieces that a lot of teams would really, really want. And they'll see what type of offers they get, especially for their players who are free agents to be at the trade deadline, which is Eric Halla, Michael Bunting, Michael McCarron, Cole Smith. Nick Blankenberg has a lot of value as a right-handed defenseman who continues to improve and show his worth in the NHL. So there are a lot of players that other teams would be interested in, and it is definitely going to be a seller's market at the
Mm.
deadline with how many teams are in the mix for playoffs in both conferences. So You never know which way this goes. But the
Yeah.
way the Preds have played right now, these players would put their fists down on the table and say, we have earned the right to stay together. So the person who makes that decision is Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
And I think he will determine which way it goes. And I think even if the Preds do sell, there could be first some buys within those moves. And also, look, just because they sell doesn't mean that they're going to lose every game the rest of the season. Depends who they lose if they do sell. But there's a chance that the mojo and the coaching and the everything that's carried them through all of this is good enough that even if they lose some pieces, they could still get in and make the playoffs, which is in a way similar to what happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, my next question is, do you think they'll stay or basically trade away some guys? If you have to pick someone out there who might be on the seller's market that the Predators might be interested to pick up, is there a player that you're kind of keeping in mind back of your head if they do maybe make a trade?
From another team?
Yeah, from another team.
I don't think I have a specific player just because we don't know who's available, but I think I have a couple of types. I think they really want a young middle six center, especially if Eric Halla gets traded away. They will need someone, first of all, to play middle six center the rest of the season. But I think they want someone that they can build around. And maybe like Dylan Cousins was here this week playing against the Preds, and we just saw the team that he got traded from last year and the team he got traded to back-to-back games. He got traded from Buffalo to Ottawa. Like somebody like that, a high-end young center, and he might be a bad example because he has a big contract and he's a bit of a bigger name and maybe a top-line center for a lot of teams. But somebody like that who's young, who you can build around, but is already either in the NHL or close to the NHL, I think that's the type of player they're looking at. I think depending on who they touch, they could get a ton of draft capital in return. And they probably won't use all of those picks, but they can use those picks to package them and either move up or go and get roster players in the future. So it creates a lot of flexibility either way. But I think middle six center and potentially some young tweener type defensemen to kind of be alongside, hopefully, Tanner Molendyk as the number one D of the future. And then some of the guys who are in amateurs right now, like Cam Reed, who was picked this year, who's shown well as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, good insight from Max. You can check him out. Nashville Predators radio broadcast, 1025 The Game. You can also check out his Twitter account as well. It was one player on the defense side of the ball, on the defense side of the ice, who you think has really stepped up in the last month in growth?
Am I allowed to say Josi, or is that too obvious?
You can say Josi. Go for it. It's in your opinion, whoever it is.
It's got to be Josi. Back from injury, back from everything that he's battled, the diagnosis in the offseason of a disease that seemingly is related to hockey injuries, but isn't a hockey injury in POTS. And look, we didn't know if he was going to get to 1,000 games. Like that wasn't a sure thing. So for him to get there and to be playing his best right now, like he's changed his game up this year too. And Luke Richardson was previously the head coach of the Blackhawks. He is in his first year as one of the Preds assistant coaches. He is by title the associate head coach to Andrew Brunette, and he coaches the defensemen. He's back there with the D-men, calling out pairings during the game, coaching up the D group. He was a longtime NHL defenseman for a handful of teams, and it's really interesting to hear him talk about Josi as somebody coaching him for the first time in his 15th season in the NHL. First of all, I think the players like having new coaches when those coaches know what they're doing. Right. And Richardson certainly fits that category. And Josi was willing and able to change his game up. And the way Richardson described it this year is it can't always be go, go, go for Josi. He only needs to be the one lugging the puck up ice when he has what Richardson describes as a flashing green light. So they're not trying to tax him. They know they're still going to play him big minutes. But look, he's 35 years old. He's dealing with an off-ice medical condition that he's finally gotten treated, and he's still playing half the game.
Yeah.
So all of that combines to just show how improbable it is that Josi is still playing at the level he is when he's healthy. And the best part is, like, he had an injury this season completely unrelated to POTS and the concussions and all that. It was a physical hockey injury. But he says conditioning-wise, he feels the best he's ever felt. And he used to always be tired. And he just thought it was because he played 30 minutes a night. But it was because of a medical condition. So, like, imagine how much he can play if everything's right physically Everything's right with Potts, and he can just go forever.
Yeah, so another guy that I do want to bring up, I think a lot of fans were critic on early on in the season, Ryan O'Reilly. He's really stepped up. He just won Player of the Week. What have you seen so far from him, and what has been the biggest step from him from early in the season to now to be a big role in that offense?
Well, as always, Ryan O'Reilly is his own biggest critic. I don't know if the fans were on him, and if they were, shame on them, because Ryan O'Reilly could play 82 games, score 0 points, and still be one of the most valuable players on the team for what he does in the neutral zone and the defensive zone and the faceoff circle and penalty killing. So he is like Mr. Number One center in every single regard. Faceoff guy, top power play, top PK, top line, playmaker, net front, throwback player, out there with no visor on his helmet. He is a player that I'm savoring every second that I get to watch him play and get to be around him and get to know him, because there is nobody else like him in the NHL. And he may be the last of his kind. I mean, he could have played in the 80s the way he suits it up. So I don't think he's anywhere near done. I hope we get to keep him in Nashville for a long time until the end of his career, whenever that is. If he does end up playing somewhere else, I will be a massive fan of whatever that team is because of everything that O'Reilly does. And I think he's the team MVP this season. So even more so than Josi Saros. I think you could say that for sure.
So going on to the prospect side of the things, the Predators have actually had a lot of young players come through the system, especially on the forwards and the defense side on the defense side of the ice. Who is one prospect that's really stood out to you that really can make a big impact either now or either could be in the future for the Preds?
Yeah, I think the guy who I think has the highest ceiling in the organization right now is Igor Surin. And we're not going to see him for another couple of years. He's playing in the Russian league right now. He was the Preds' first round pick in 2024, and they got him in the teens. And he's somebody who has continued to impress. He's played in the KHL, the highest league in Russia. He was on the championship team last year, and he looks the part with the big guys. And in the European leagues, when these 18, 19-year-old players come up to the high leagues, sometimes they just never score. And that hasn't been the case for him. So I think he's potentially the highest ceiling prospect of the organization, maybe even more so than Brady Martin. And I think in the future, one of those guys is the top line center, one of them is the second line center, and Fedor Svechkov is the third line center with the guys the Preds have now.
So this is a Titan show. I do got to ask you, you probably saw the news about Robert Saleh getting hired. Do you have any thoughts about that could be a good hire for the Titans? What do you think about that?
Well, I have no educated thoughts whatsoever, but I think it does seem like a good hire. Kind of reminds you of Mike Vrabel, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I think of the coaches who was available, if you couldn't have gotten John Harbaugh, I think he definitely would have been the first choice from the little bit I know. And I also like that he has beef with the Jaguars coach and that we get to see that here now.
Yes, that's going to be something to watch. So you can check out Max. He does a great things in the Nashville Predators, 1025 the game. Max, since when in your life did it inspire you to do broadcasting for the Preds? Or I know you went to Dun Fanny before. What inspired you to become a broadcaster?
I just got really lucky that I found something I was good at and got chances to run with it. So there are a ton of people in Nashville that have given me great opportunities, and the Preds are at the top of that list. They have treated me unbelievably well over the last few years. Kind of took me on a whim. The first person who ever approved me to be on the air was someone I had never met before, who took me on a recommendation from 1025 The Game. So they really trust their people. They understand the value of radio, which is great. And they put all of us and they put me in a position to succeed. So I'm really, really thankful for that. And I love everything I get to do.
So Max Herz, you can check him out. 1025 The Game, like you say. Go say what's up to him at the Jack Daniels Sports Bar. Go check him out. And make sure you guys say what's up to him. Great overall person. Appreciate you taking some time, especially stay safe this weekend. There's some storms coming into town, like we mentioned early on. So stay safe, and thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, my pleasure. And if you don't know how to drive in the snow, don't try. Let the people who know how just be out there on their own. Don't get in our way. But if you can come to the game, we hope to see you there.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, Jack, absolutely.
All right, so again, appreciate Max for tuning into the show. It was a very good blast, very fun. And he did a really good job breaking down Roman Josi and talking about how he's transitioned from his cancer. He's done a really tremendous job. And shout out to Roman Josi, and so happy that Roman Yosi's been playing healthy this season. Also, shout out to Ryan O'Reilly and Steven Stamkos have been on fire as of late. Like I mentioned, like people criticize Ryan O'Reilly and Stamkos early on in the year, maybe moving on from those guys, but I think those guys should stay together. This team is just forming, and it's nice to see the Predators get these wins, and we'll see in the middle of late March and early April if the Predators can keep over 500 and see if they can make a push for that second or first wild card spot in their division. So appreciate for Max for tuning in. But we have next on Sunday, Easton Freeze, ADCsports.com, talking about the Robert Saleh hiring. I think this is what everybody's been waiting on. I think this is what people are most excited me to talk about is Robert Saleh hiring. I love this hiring. If you saw my reel on Sunday, or Monday, I think it happened Monday night. Monday night is when it happens. I was stoked. I was excited. I was thrilled. And, I like Robert Saleh. He's a good leader, and people have been talking about that. And like I said, I haven't heard anything about Matt Nagy not being a leader. I've heard anything about him just stepping up in a way. I've heard negative things, especially Mitchell Trubisky's talked bad about Matt Nagy. And that's something we've been talking about with Easton on Sunday is like, what's going on in Matt Nagy's leadership? Why were people saying that? Why, and that's something that's going to be a huge topic. Also, we can talk about Sunday, why did Mike McDaniel, why not Mike McCarthy did not get finalist? Easton might have some insight on that, but it was a great episode. My 3 takes with Robert Saleh hiring is number 1, leadership. I think people are over questioning it. Robert Saleh has one of the best defensive minds, I think, in this head coaching cycle. I think he's experienced. I think he has what it takes to bring a great defense to Nashville. I think we've been missing that since Mike Vrabel. Like Mike Vrabel was the last one who brought a good and competitive defense to Nashville. And like I said earlier in the reel, this defense has been kind of shaky. It's not been great. I'll be honest with y'all. When Denard Wilson was let go, I was okay with it because the defense struggled. I mean, they struggled in points. They struggled in third down. They just struggled in complementary things that you would think a defense would be doing. And I truly think Robert Saleh, especially with all the injuries San Francisco 49ers have had over the years, he still has had a top 5 defense with the Jets, with the 49ers. This year is a little bit lower just because of the injuries, but I still have a lot of hope in Robert Saleh being the next head coach, especially for his second time go around. And I think he'll be fit fine. I think it matters now who he's going to put around him and the staff. And, hopefully we'll find out some more stuff coming out on Sunday. And, Brian Dable's a guy who's in that role as well. I truly think he could be the next guy, especially what we've heard from Diana Rossini. They expect him to be the next guy for the Tennessee Titans. We have to see. We have to see how that goes. But currently at the moment, I like the hire. We have to see where the OC goes. I imagine it'd be Cliff Kingsbury. I imagine maybe Arthur Smith. Imagine maybe Brian Dable. Those are 3 guys I expect to keep an eye on. Mike McDaniel is out. I don't expect him coming here, especially with all the rumors. He's interviewing Buffalo today. I don't expect him going to Tennessee as much as we all wanted to, but we have to see where this goes later on. But I'm very excited to see what Robert Saleh brings to the table. Also, a lot of players love him. I think he might bring a lot of energy and juice to Nashville, which is another thing we've been missing. Every single time you go to games, you're like, dang, it's so bad. Like, the thing with Callahan, he's never really brought the juice on the field. I get he was a little bit aggressive, but he was not aggressive as Mike Vrabel. And, Saleh and Vrabel are kind of like this. Like, they're both not right here, but, like, I can see, like, they can both maybe be somewhat in the middle of each other. I don't think it's me exactly like Mike Vrabel. I think it'll be somewhat better than we've been used to be because, Titans fans were up here with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, the thing is he brought all the energy. He brought all the leadership. This is what was Mike Vrabel. And, Brian Callahan was just right here. He didn't really do enough to bring the leadership and the energy to Nashville. I truly think that Robert Saleh can do that. So I'm very excited to see what I can do. I'm very excited to see what Robert Saleh can do in Nashville. That's me something very, very exciting. So Easton Freeze, AZ Sports on Sunday. Those are my 3 takes. But stay safe of the snow. Stay safe of the storms coming to Nashville this week. And hopefully we still have the show going on just because of all this trouble and all what's going on. Hopefully it'll be okay. But for right now, though, this is what's going to be on Friday. Unfortunately, we'll see what happens on Sunday. We should get a show out. If we can't, because I might lose power. If Easton loses power, then we might have to move it to next week. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all for checking out the shows. You always do. See y'all on Sunday, and see y'all when we recap Robert Saleh. Tie note.